fact, I had somebody was asking me about it, and they were like, "Wow, man, you're fired up about tonight." Yes, I am. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. And so tonight, I'm going to start off with a number. Okay, 199. What do y'all think is significant about the number 199? That's what I would think, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. 199. There's probably, I want to talk about a person you probably know, okay? If you know anything about sports, you've probably heard this name, and that's Tom Brady. Anybody ever heard Tom Brady? Yeah, a few times, right? I mean, if you just the goat of quarterbacks of the NFL, right? So, 25-year career, 7 championships. I mean, it's phenomenal what he did. His draft number was 199. So there were 198 people drafted ahead of him. Every team in the NFL passed on him at least 5 times, thinking somebody was better than him. And most of them passed on him 6 times, thinking somebody was better than him. Would y'all say that maybe he was a little underappreciated? Maybe a little bit undervalued? Underproven, maybe so. But can I tell you this? Here's the problem. We do the same thing with our health. We undervalue it and we underappreciate it, and we don't realize the potential that we have in it. Today I went over to the hospital to visit a friend that I went to high school with, and I was so frustrated. I was trying to get in. I couldn't find a parking spot on the one end I needed to go in. I went to the other end. I couldn't find a parking spot. I went all the way around to the back, and I found a parking spot, and I walked in through a couple of buildings, got into the room, and I'm walking down the hall, and I'm looking into these rooms, and I'm saying, I'll bet half of these people in here, if they would do what I'm going to talk to y'all about tonight, they could improve and probably get out of here, or they wouldn't be in here to begin with. So, buckle up. Let's get ready to talk about metabolic syndrome, okay? Probably never heard of it unless you heard me talk about it. Metabolic syndrome means this. What does metabolic mean? Well, metabolic means your ability to take in food and produce energy. Anybody like energy? Oh, yeah, all right, okay. Did you know that, okay, and by the way, on your paper there, it's going to ask for a percentage. What percentage of people do you think in America over 40 years old have metabolic syndrome? Good guess. It might be, honestly, because most of the time these kind of numbers are very conservative. But I'm going to tell you conservative numbers, 50%. 50%. That means 50% of people don't take in food and make energy well. We're going to talk about how you define and diagnose metabolic syndrome. Then we're going to talk about what are the consequences of it, what are the complications from it. And then we're going to talk about, okay, how do we deal with that? All right, how do we improve this situation? So first of all, let's deal with how do you diagnose metabolic syndrome, okay? You got to have 3 of these 5 markers, these indicators, to be present in order to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, okay? So here's number 1, and I'm going to give you this as number 1 because I believe that it is really the foundational issue, and that is this, that your blood sugar is dysregulated. That's called dysglycemia. Okay, so you don't regulate your blood sugar, and most of the time when you don't regulate your blood sugar, it means your blood sugar is too high. That may be insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, or diabetes, okay, of different types. But bottom line is, one of the factors is your blood sugar. So what's an optimal level for blood sugar? Where should your blood sugar be? How do you know if it's out of range? It should be 85 to 99, okay? Even if you go to 80, you're probably okay, but you cannot ever, really, you want to be around 95, but you got to at least be somewhere between 80 to 95 to 99. That's normal range, Okay, it's healthy range. So that's number one marker. Number two marker, okay, so if you got that problem, guess what else you end up with? You're overweight. Do we have a problem with that in America at all? Oh, slightly, yeah, slightly. It's a big, big, huge problem. Matter of fact, I did some interesting research on this a while back. I don't remember the numbers exactly, okay, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to this. There was from the 80s until the 2005, 2010 range there, somewhere in there, in that 30 years or so span, they had to actually create a new percentage of overweight people. They had to it was like, okay, if you're this far obese or if you're this far, and then they said, oh, wait a minute, now we got to go to this far, okay? And if you look at how it's been progressing, it's kind of crazy. And Texas is not doing well, by the way. In that we're not quite as fat as Mississippi, but we're pretty close, okay? But it's unfortunate that overweight is a huge problem in our culture. So there's two of the markers. Now let's go to the third marker. Let's look at triglycerides, okay? Increased triglycerides, okay? What are triglycerides? Well, those are low density cholesterols, okay? So these are fats in your bloodstream, okay? So if they're elevated, there's a reason why they're elevated. It's not because you ate fat. It's because you ate sugar and complex carbs, and your body converted it to fat. Okay? So that's why it happens. So if you think, oh my goodness, my cholesterol is high because I'm eating too much red meat, no, that's not your problem. Okay? By the way, the cholesterol that's in your body, only 20% of that actually comes in from your diet. Okay, 80% is made in the liver. Okay, and so that's where that conversion process happens. Elevated triglycerides, and then closely or kind of related to that in the lipid or fat is decreased HDLs. HDLs are your high density lipids. That's what they call the good cholesterol. Now, all cholesterol is good, it all has its purposes. But if your if your HDLs are low, that means now your liver is not making a lot of these type of lipids that are protective, that protect your arteries and other things from getting damaged. And then the last marker, okay, is hypertension or high blood pressure. Okay, so three of these, any three of these here, and you got metabolic syndrome. Okay, so for a lot of people, it don't take long to figure out that there a lot of people. How many people are on high blood pressure drugs? Tons, tons. It's one of the most highly prescribed drugs every year. I look at this every year. What's the top 10 drugs prescribed? High blood pressure is always going to have at least a couple of them in there. Always in the top 10. Okay. We know this is common. We know this one we already talked about. It's a huge problem. Guess what? So is this. Okay, we'll talk more about that in just a second. So these two, people, if you've had your blood work done, you've probably seen that, hey, that's a problem because you can't have this going on without this cascade of problems. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why that happens here as we go into now the complications. So it's one thing to say, okay, I got metabolic uh, syndrome. Okay, so okay, I'm not making energy well. Okay, so yeah, no wonder I'm a little bit fatigued or whatever. Man, I got a little bit of brain fog. My brain's not focusing as well, or now I'm not able to stay asleep as well as I want. All those are problems with energy. Okay, so but what does that mean on the cellular basis? What does it mean if your heart's not getting enough energy, or if your liver's not getting enough energy, or if your immune system is not getting enough energy, which protects you from infection and disease, right? So that's a big deal. So look here, here's the complications of this, and I'm going to go through these with you, okay? We're going to write the complications up here. And we're going to give you 7 of these complications, okay? Number 1, of course, you probably guessed, is diabetes mellitus, okay? So type 2 diabetes in particular because you got blood sugar problems, okay? Now, this, last time I checked, I think this is still true, they still say diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in America, okay? But, okay, remember when I go through these other ones, what is the foundational problem? You're going to see that this is tied to just about all these other ones that we're about to list. And the second one is the big one, the most critical, is cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease, heart disease. Basically, that's what's known as heart disease. What's the number one killer every single year? Has been for decades? Heart disease. We're talking about now, come on in, perfect timing. We're talking about 1,000,000 people in America die because of heart disease. Come on in, Miss Betty. Good to see you. So guess what? We're going to come back and we'll talk about this a little bit more, in particular about how this ties in with what we're talking about metabolic syndrome. Okay. So the third one is fatty liver. Anybody in here ever known somebody been diagnosed with fatty liver? You know, you know what the problem is with this? What I see, and I don't know if this bothers anybody else, but in the conventional medical environment, in the medical world, they make light of this. Like, oh, you got fatty liver. Why do you got fatty liver? Well, let me tell you why you got fatty liver. Because you got a lot of fat being deposited in your liver and other organs, by the way. It's not just the liver, but it shows up in the liver quickly because liver enzymes begin to elevate. It's happening in other places too. You mean your heart's getting fat too? Other organs are getting fat, okay? Because you got increased insulin and because of increased glucose, and insulin is going to store glucose as fat, okay? It's going to convert it and store it as fat. You know why? Because your body's created intelligently. So you store fat so that, hey, if tomorrow, the next day, or the week after that, we don't get any food, we'll be okay. We got a little stored up. That's what your body does. Your body stores it up. The problem is we don't ever miss a meal. we we don't. I mean, we never do. It's like not like, in the days gone by, when if you didn't kill something, you didn't really eat something, okay? So now it's like you just go to the refrigerator. You go to the grocery store, man, forget that. My refrigerator's empty. I'll just pull in the drive-through. I don't even have to get out of my car. Comes right in the window. So there's the problem. See, we got fatty liver because we're depositing too much fat. Now, number 4, this is a big one and it bothers me. This is chronic kidney disease. Come on in. Welcome. Chronic kidney disease. Why do you think we get chronic kidney disease? What do you think the leading cause by far of chronic kidney disease? Diabetes. 40% of diabetics end up with chronic kidney disease. Did they tell you that? When they're blowing off your HA1C at 6.5 and 7.0 and saying, that's okay, looking pretty good. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. You're headed right straight to kidney disease, I can promise you. If you live long enough, if something else doesn't kill you, like cardiovascular disease. So these are the complications of metabolic syndrome. This is why I'm telling you why this is so critical that we got a handle on this. Now we're going to get to something that really is ugly, and that is dementia. Now we're looking at our brain beginning to decay. Okay, and what happens to the brain? Well, we already know Alzheimer's is called type 3 diabetes. We know that the longer your blood sugar is dysregulated, it's high, the more damage it is to the brain. It goes on. And the more susceptible your brain is, maybe because of other things, head traumas, other health issues, toxins, all these other things, then you're going to be more susceptible to this. But that's number 5. And then the last one, and I'm going to give you actually one bonus, but number 6 is it increases your risk of certain cancers. Like, you kidding me? Metabolic syndrome? Absolutely. We know this. It's linked. You can do the research. It's easy. Just AI will give you all the answers you want these days, or use Google, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Now, here's a bonus. I'm going to give you something here that nobody talks about either, and that is that it affects your pH, in particular, making you acidic. Okay, why is being acidic a problem? Let me just give you this here as a bonus. When your body depends, every metabolic process inside your body depends on a slight alkalinity in order to make it work properly. And so your blood operates with a slight alkalinity and has very small margin of error. It cannot fluctuate. So the body is going to, it's intelligent, it's created to preserve itself. So in order to preserve that blood at a certain pH, what's it going to do? Whatever it has to. Understand? Short-term emergency certainly outweighs a long-term possible problem or certain problem. Let me give you an example of this. If your body becomes acidic because of you can't process the acids in the body, and that's probably because you're overloading it with the problems that we got from blood sugar and other things, and maybe our lymphatic system doesn't work well, which helps us with this because we don't move enough. You have to move to have a good lymphatic system, okay? So guess what? Now you can't eliminate toxins, you can't eliminate acids that your body makes. You get acidic, and your body has to start using minerals, your mineral reserves to alkalize the body. So it takes stored minerals and uses them. Well, here's the problem. What happens when you use up your reserves? Now it starts getting minerals from other places, like calcium from your bones and magnesium from your muscles, and you wonder why you got osteoporosis, and your doctor thinks he just give you this pill and it fixes everything, okay? It don't fix your metabolic problem, and it don't fix your bones either, by the way. But then you got muscle cramps and weakness, and you wonder why you can't walk like you used to, and you don't have energy in your legs because you're robbing magnesium out of your muscles to try to balance your pH because you got complications from metabolic syndrome. Y'all understand this is not that hard to understand if you've been studying anything about this. People know this if they just put one and two together, but nobody bothers. And unfortunately, it's not being talked about anywhere else, and that's a shame. All right. So all of these are complications of this right here. Okay. So the question is, why haven't we done anything about this? What do y'all think? Why haven't we done anything about this? Okay. I'll give you that. It's not easy. What does that mean? That means that it's change. Change is involved. You know, a lot of people are afraid of change. I've always said this, and I think this is right, Danny. I say change is easy. Let me tell you what's hard, Jeanette. What's hard is thinking about change. I've shared this story before, but Doc, how long ago now? Dr. Crooks probably did this about the same time I did. I'll say at least 15 years ago, or more, I took a gluten sensitivity test and found out that I was sensitive to gluten. Guess what? I didn't eat it anymore. Was that hard? Nope. This just was what it was. It wasn't hard. I didn't even think about it. I said, okay, that's that what that means. I don't do that anymore because I thought keeping my brain was more important than having that piece of fluffy, nice bread there that tastes good and look good. I said, I'd rather have my brain. I don't know. Y'all can make your own choices, but I'm just saying that it was easy. It's thinking about it. Oh no, I got to do that. I got to. Betty, you got a wonderful story. You were so afraid of those changes, weren't you? And then she came in and says, I can't believe it. I went a whole week. You know what I'm saying? And the first week's the hardest week. And she's done a wonderful job already making changes, things she didn't think she could do. It's been a week and you're feeling better after the first week of the change. Wasn't that true? That's what you came in telling me earlier this week. So 1 week. It's amazing. So so why we haven't made that, sometimes it might be because it's hard, but you know what the biggest reason is? We don't know what to do. Isn't that true? You've tried to do some things on your own, different, and it didn't turn out well. And you know why? Because you didn't know exactly what to do. And some people try things and they don't get the result they're looking for, and then they give up. Or they get frustrated and say, well, it didn't work for me. No, it's because you didn't have a proper map. Y'all remember back in the old days? Some of y'all old enough to remember we used to read maps? Man, thank God I read maps when I was young. Your generation, just you guys don't even know what a map looks like. And unfortunately, some of that part of our brain that used to process, Maria's back there laughing because she's like, yep, I'm in that generation. It's like some of our brain that uses to process those linear and putting these things together, sequence things to where we're going to go here and turn there and do that, we're losing that. You don't have to do that anymore. It just says turn right there, turn left there. That's what you know. So, but maybe today we need to say you need a good GPS. Okay. So, but in order to have a GPS, you got to know where you want to go, and then you follow the plan. Follow the roadmap that's laid out for you. And where's this map going to take us to? Well, this map is going to take us to a place called Welltown. You understand? And you know what Welltown looks like? It looks like an abundant life. It looks like what life is supposed to look like, where you're active even into your elder. Young, how old are you, young lady? 76. Okay. Congratulations. You actually practice what I'm talking about here. I had a lady, I wish I could have got her. I was going to get a video of her today and play it tonight. She's about your age. How old is Carol? I think Carol might be close to 80 now. I'm trying to think. But she she's been seeing me for probably about 15 years or so, you know, and she takes no drugs. You don't take any drugs? Imagine that. You are a weirdo. You're like a dinosaur.
To not segue into something else, but 60 years ago, I got turned on to Adele Davis again.
Yeah.
Published books on wellness and how to
60
make
years
perfect
ago.
babies. You know,
Yeah.
before you make them.
Sure.
You're eating right and doing the right things. What I was going to say was, most of my friends who were in my running club, because I taught at the
Yeah.
Y at that point, said it was too hard
Yeah.
to buy all the natural foods, to
Yeah.
prep them all, and then to put them on the table instead of running by and getting fast food. My kids never had fast food.
Now, catch you this, guys. Don't miss this. How it was too hard, right? I wonder how hard it is for those people over there today I saw laying in those hospital beds that are your age and younger, okay, and aren't out playing tennis and enjoying life, okay. I wonder how hard that is. See, the point is that it's not hard. It's just about choices. You know what I'm saying? And priority. And so what I'm trying to get you to do tonight is I'm challenging us to say, okay, number one, we need to change our priorities and make better choices. Number two, there is a way to do it, and I can walk you through that. I can give you a map that gets you to where you want to go, okay? And then once you start making changes, it's really not that hard. It just is what it is. Amen. And the outcome is well worth it. That's the most important thing. So how does this map get going? Okay, so here's what I want to go over with y'all here. Okay, and this is the most important part of what we're talking about tonight is how do we begin to evaluate where we're at and where we want to go to. So I'm going to ask you guys to pass around this piece of paper for everybody here. Okay, this is our 2-day metabolic syndrome evaluation. Okay, so this includes, uh, first of all, doing some blood tests because remember some of these things are studied by blood tests. So we got to look at blood sugar, we got to look at glucose, we got to look at HA1C, we got to look at your lipid panel, we got to look at insulin. I like to look at that too. Okay, so we got to run some blood tests first of all, and then I want to review any labs that you have because we may see signs in there also of fatty liver and other things. So we look at old labs. Then we do a metabolic assessment form. Remember, metabolic means ability to make energy. We look at every organ and system of your body to see if you have signs that you're having poor energy production in any system in your body. And so then we do take-home tests. These are tests where you do these at home. You bring them back for me to evaluate them to check your digestion, your thyroid function, your adrenal, your inflammation, and then we do an in-office evaluation. Okay, in the in-office evaluation, we're going to look at things like, come on in, young lady, good to see you. We're going to look at things like bilateral blood pressures, not just one side blood pressure, because you can have one side. Doc, how many times have we seen people with different blood pressures, right? Maybe up to 10 points or more from side to side is not uncommon sometimes with people because what you don't think about is, let me go back to something. Forgive me for a second, but I need to backtrack for a minute. Y'all remember when we were talking about how blood sugar was the foundation? Blood sugar begins to cause damage to arterial walls and the inside of the arterial wall. Inside the interior of the artery is where you make something called nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide does a lot of different things for you, but one of the things that it does is it helps dilate blood vessels and open up blood vessels so you can get good circulation into things like your brain and your nerves, okay, what you need. So, guess what happens? Blood sugar starts damaging the inner lining of the artery. Now you don't get nitric oxide, so now you can't dilate blood pressure and your blood vessels. I mean, you can't dilate blood vessels and your arteries begin to constrict. Guess what happens to your blood pressure? Got to go up because your heart's still beating, moving the same amount of blood, but now it's going through a smaller pipe. So your blood pressure goes up. This is how blood sugar begins to affect your blood pressure. Okay. And so that is one of the things that we look at. So we look at bilateral blood pressures because brain can be affected and affect your blood pressure, and one side can be different than the other. And we also do tissue perfusion, looking at are your small vessels opened up and getting blood flow into your extremities, hands and feet, which also tell us if it's getting to your brain or not. Okay. And then we do a complete neurologic evaluation, including looking at neuropathy, because neuropathy is a common problem with cardiovascular disease, which is one of the complications of metabolic syndrome. Okay. So that complete 1 day evaluation. And then after we get the blood work back, we sit down and we go over everything with you, tell you exactly where you are, and then give you a map and how to go forward with that. When I do that 2 day process, normally that's a $495, including blood test process that I go through. Even when I teach this seminar, okay, and you attend, I give you the opportunity to do it for $95. And I'm going to tell you, everybody in here, if you don't know for sure, you need to do that evaluation because you need to know where you are so that you can make sure you know where you're going, where you need to go to. Okay. Yeah, fasting blood test. Yeah, we got to do it fast.